Okay, guys, I'm going to document something real quick that one of my friends sent me, Eric. Um, and then I've already gone to vet this. And let me tell you something. Last time I was doing Obama videos, let me tell you what happened to me. Two of my websites were destroyed. I mean, they were filled with so much malware that we tried to quarantine my site and we tried to clean up all the code. And you know what? Within 24 hours, the entire site was destroyed. So if you tried to go to two of my websites, then you'd get a big red banner that said malware, go back to safety. Now, I started doing Obama videos again, and guess what's been happening? Equipment malfunctioning, phones malfunctioning, um, email behaving oddly. I'll have one phone ring, but both phones will ring from the same number. That's impossible unless your phones are being, monitored, which I could care less. I just don't care. But I'm just telling you, just be advised. Now let me show you what I'm going to do a video for y'all. Y'all got to see this. But first thing I'm going to do is document it. And I'm going to put it off to the side, and then I'm going to quarantine everything. So watch this. I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to go here and open this, and I'll let you see what happens. Okay, so I'm trying to, encrypted network traffic, block this communication, block this communication, block this communication. So it's trying to access my computer. Now I'm going to read this real quick, and then that way I have a video copy of this, and then we'll get to it, then I'll continue this video. Right now I'm memorializing this. Obama admits he's the Antichrist, posted on July 30th, 2018. In an unpublished June interview with Washington Post correspondent Joe Stevens. I went and looked up Joe Stevens. Disgraced President Barack Obama admitted he is the Antichrist, and among other inflammatory comments, he said, "The world will bend to my will." Okay, now let me say something real quick. I do not like publishing stuff where I don't know the source. If I can't vet it, I don't show it to you. I've gone to vet this. This guy is he's absolutely a writer for the Post, and apparently this story was blocked from publishing. But what's so telling about this is the wordage that was in it that this guy said Obama said. So remember, this is hearsay, but look at the language. And then I'm going to blow your mind with so much data. The data that's coming on the heels of this article is going to blow your mind. Okay, here we go. Okay, again, in an unpublished June interview with Washington Post correspondent Joe Stevens, disgraced former President Barack Hussein Obama admitted he is the Antichrist. Among other inflammatory comments, he said, "The world will bend to my will." Let me stretch this out. There we go. The world will bend to my will. The dialogue, which the Post scuttled because it had allegedly devolved into a comedy skit, was scheduled by Obama to discuss his views on Trump's failed presidency and the future of the Democratic Party. Oh, yikes. After 30 minutes of bashing Trump while bragging about his self-perceived success, this all sounds right. Obama asked Stevens whether he had additional questions of importance to the American public. That is when Stevens apparently went off script and he produced a photograph of Obama dressed in satanic garb, a shimmering sequin cloak etched with demonic symbols, and horned headpiece that bore a striking resemblance to the demon beast Baphomet. Okay, let me show you what they're talking about real quick. Hang on, let me pause it. Okay, so this is what he's talking about. He's talking about this picture that was taken with his lawyer buddy right here. So there's the image. Okay, that he's talking about this image right here. And this was all over the internet. as this lady published it on Twitter and then instantly tried to remove it, but the pictures got out. Spread the love. Barack Obama's satanic image goes viral. I'm sorry, goes viral. You can find this. Anne Marie Hope, an artist favored by the international elite, uploaded the photo of Obama after a party. Okay, so this is the image that is being talked about in the article where Stevens was allegedly interviewing him. So check it out. That is when Stevens apparently went off script. He produced a photograph of Obama dressed in satanic garb, a shimmering sequin cloak etched with demonic symbols, and a horn headpiece that bore striking resemblance to the demon beast Baphomet. The image was originally uploaded on Instagram in June by an artist, Anne Marie Hope. That's correct, it's vetted, and shows the satanically clad Obama standing beside casually dressed Arthur Davis, an attorney and politician who served as a Democratic member of the United States House of Representatives from 2003 to 2011. Now that's just, there he is. That's the guy. That's the attorney they're talking about. And these are the images that they're talking about right here. Okay, and once it went viral, they couldn't get the pictures down. I know the lady tried to pull it very quickly. A colleague of Stevens, familiar with the interview, said Stevens asked if the photograph was authentic or photoshopped, and if the former, what reason Obama had for donning such a peculiar attire. Why do you think? Obama replied, because I'm the Antichrist. Haven't you heard? Stevens must have thought it was a joke. He smiled and rephrased the question. No, really, why would you, a two-term former president, wear such an outfit? Our source said Obama stuck to his answer. Okay, this is where I'm going to just leave this with y'all. I don't like it when I see our source, but I can understand someone that doesn't want to be identified would say, don't use my name. But what's coming after this, what I'm going to show you after all this is going to look like a no-brainer, just a no-brainer. So here we go. Our source said Obama stuck to the answer. He reiterated specifically that he was the Antichrist and told Joe the internet was replete with evidence proving his satanic heritage. Let me show you something. Our source said Obama stuck to his answer, but then look, this guy messed up and mentioned his name. He reiterated specifically that he was the Antichrist and told Joe the internet, unless that, let me look at Stevens. Oh, I think that's Stevens' first name. Yeah, Joe Stevens. There you go. Yeah, he told Joe. Let's go back. So our source said Obama stuck to his answer. He reiterated specifically he was the Antichrist, and he told Joe the internet was replete with evidence proving his satanic heritage. He's being sarcastic. That's when things got weird and went haywire, our source said. All of the information is accurate. Obama's eyes spun freely in their sockets. Now let me tell you something about that. I am absolutely telling you 100% truth right now. When I was waking up before I got saved, my dad came over to my house one day and was like, well, is something going on? Because all this weird stuff was starting to happen. I was being followed. I mean, I was having all kinds of strange stuff going on. And my dad came over and I was there at my house with Lou and I went outside and my dad was in the car. And so I'm talking to my dad through the window of his cars, of his vehicle. And while my dad was looking at me, my dad's eyes just started going. You know what? Let me grab a YouTube video and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, now again, this I've experienced this. I've seen this, and it freaked me out. I was standing there like what the hell just happened to my dad's eyes? This is right before I got saved, literally, probably within a couple days. And I was like, Dad, something's up. Something's really going on. I'm not sure what's up. And my dad's eyes started doing what you're about to see in this video right here. Watch. Just like that. That's what my dad's eyes were doing. And I'll never forget it. It was one of the most bizarre things ever. Okay, now the reason I showed you that is because we're reading this article and the guy's talking about his eyes freaking out. I've seen it. I've seen that. And as it turns out, my dad, God bless him, I love my dad. My dad turned out to be one of my greatest adversaries in all of this. I mean, my dad burned me for over $300,000. And even the house that I'm in now that, he bought with my money he stole, he left it in the estate to my brother and sister after I spent years fixing it up. That's sick. I still love my dad, but that's sick. That's twisted. So anyway, that's what my dad's eyes did right there. Same thing. Okay, let's go back to the article. Okay, so our source said Obama stuck to his answer. He reiterated specifically he was the Antichrist and told Joe the internet was replete with evidence proving his satanic heritage. He was probably being a smartass. That's when things got weird and went haywire, a source said. All the information is accurate. Obama's eyes spun freely in their sockets, and he began speaking in tongues, even weaving strange symbols in the air with his outstretched fingers. When his language returned to English, he made comments such as, "The world will bend to my will. Worship me. I shall rise again, and there is no escape." Okay, to me, guys, this is making sense. Then Obama suddenly regained his composure as if the transformation had never happened. Okay, I'm going to comment now on this and we'll pick up the article in a sec. Okay, guys, I was in Starbucks and a lot of you know this story because Chris, my good friend, was the manager. And I walked in Starbucks and I told Chris, the manager, I said, "I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me." Okay, look, guys, that's insane. Who says something like that? I mean, Chris looked at me like I had lost my ever-loving mind, and rightfully so. I mean, I can understand. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, I'd probably go, yeah. I'd be like, whatever, bro. And Chris looked at me like, what are you? He literally said, like, "What are you smoking?" I said, "I'm not smoking nothing. I'm telling you, I'll bet you $1 million. Alex over there draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on my face." And he did. Hang on one sec. So let me show you that. Okay, so here's the image Alex drew. Okay, I want to show you this image. I'm going to enlarge it real quick because, I saw the same thing happen in Alex. Okay, there's the image Alex drew of me, and then after, during the conversation where he turned into Satan, he drew this image too. But he drew this image of me. I walked in there a week and a half later, and I walked into Starbucks, and Chris was the manager, and I said, "Hey, what's up, Chris?" And then Alex was going, "Hey, Johnny," and he was winking at me and sticking the tongue out of the side of his mouth. Well, because I have the gift of discerning of spirits, when I saw that, that's how I knew he would do the sheep thing, because just like the Vatican, it has a big sheep with the tongue sticking out of the side of his mouth. So the spirit that's running him is mocking me that I'm one of the dead sheep. And then he's closing his eye because that's the all-seeing eye. Because your eye is double. When you close one eye, you got the all-seeing eye looking at you. That's why those that wink the eye devise perverse things. They bring evil to pass. Jesus said in Psalm 35:19, "Neither let them that are my enemies wrongly rejoice over me, neither let them wink the eye that hate me without cause." And it's in John 15 when Jesus said, "Those that hate me without cause." He was mentioning Psalm 35:19. So when I saw that manifestation, I knew what was running Alex. That's why I said he'll draw a picture of me with a dead sheep. And he did. So Chris lost $1 million. I was like, I still didn't get it to give to him. So, back in the old days, I could have paid up probably. But so anyway, so here's the image he did of me. And so there you go, right behind my ear. There's the dead sheep. There's the eye. There's the ear. There's the ear coming down. He used my ear to kind of hide it. There's the bottom jaw, tongue sticking out, nose, nostrils. And I'm just going to enlarge it real quick and show it to you. Just make it quick, but we'll get back to our thing. There you go. There's the dead sheep. And he used my do-rag, and he got a serpent in there eating me. But I'll show you this image because I like the little dots. I put little white dots on it. It's real easy to see. So anyway, then we're going to go back to this article because it's making sense according to what's happened to me. So there's the dead sheep. There it is, right there. I didn't enhance it. Well, when I say I didn't enhance it, I just drew over his lines. I put the little white dots to make the sheep easy to see. You see the drool coming out the nose, little tongue, little drool coming out the mouth. And there it is. And so, I mean, this is no brainer. So now let's go back. So then Obama suddenly regained his composure as if the transformation had never happened. Well, you know what? I believe that because you know what? I saw the exact same thing with Alex. I mean, Alex had drawn that picture of me and I walked into Starbucks and I was giving Chris the money and Alex goes, "Hey, Johnny, I drew a picture of you." And I went, "Oh," and I looked at Chris. I'm like, "Hey, Chris, Alex drew a picture of me." We were like, and Chris was like, "What?" Chris was like, "Oh my gosh." First of all of a sudden it's coming true. Kleck's right. And he's like, so he looks at Alex and Alex walks up and he hands me that picture and I look at it and I immediately see the sheep and I'm like, "Oh, wow." And I go, "Check it out, Chris." And I turn it around and I go, "Look, Alex drew a picture of me." And Chris is like, and I'm like, uh-huh. Well, right then, Alex got off on his break. So Alex walks back there, where you're making the coffees. And he walks out from around the little bar where he's serving people and he's going on break. And I go, "Hey, Alex, you got a minute?" He's like, "Yeah, man, yeah." And so I said, "Hey, grab a seat for a second." Okay, so I had a latte. Okay, this is a water I have, but I'll use it to demonstrate. So, I had this latte and I set it down on the table. So I set the latte down on the table and Chris sits down and so I'm looking at Chris and I go, "Hey, Chris, let me ask you a question, bro." And I go, "That's a pretty good picture." And he's like, "Yeah, man, yeah, yeah." And I go, "Yeah." And I'm pointing to it. I'm sitting there going like, "Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's good." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I go, "That's pretty good likeness, really, for, just a little sketch." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, dude." And I said, "Well, hey, man, I've seen this before, so, don't freak out." And he's he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen this before, actually." He's like, he's a little confused. And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah, I've actually had other people draw images of me." And he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah." And I go, "So let me ask you a question. Why'd you put a dead sheep on my face?" And he went from, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Do you know who you're speaking with?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I know who I'm speaking with." Okay, so right then, Alex was instantaneously wiped out. I mean, Alex was like not there. Something else was there. And that's what it's going to be when the beast is unleashed. It's going to take over everybody. So check it out. So Alex is sitting there going, "Do you know who you're speaking with?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I know who I'm speaking with." And I went, "You know what? Hold that thought." And I jumped up really quick and I ran out the door right behind me and I ran to the right next door and I opened the door. Trinity was getting a haircut. And I said, "Hey, how long is he going to be in the chair?" I just opened the door. I didn't even walk in. I go, "How long is he going to be in the chair?" And this slay's like, "Oh, like 10 minutes." I said, "Send him next door when you're done." And so then I ran back. So I was back in Starbucks within like 20 seconds. And by the time I got in there, Alex was sitting there. I'm just going to use a lid so I don't spill tea everywhere. Alex was sitting there and he was drawing on my latte. So I walk in, I'm standing up. So I'm looking down on him and he's sitting there like this, drawing on the lid of my latte. Then he looks up like this. He's like, And, it gives me this. And I look down and he drew the all-seeing eye on the lid of my latte. And I was like, and then I went, yeah, I know who I'm speaking with. And then I said, do you know who you're speaking with? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay, so you know I'm a messenger. And he goes, yes. And then I said, do you know what the message is? And he goes like this, despondent. He goes, yes. And then I leaned forward just to kind of incite it. I went, your time is up. And I went, your time is up. And he went, and you could see, I mean, just like he went like that and just tense, man. Just like, I'm like, oh shit, here it comes. And I was like, and I literally put my arm and I got enough distance. There was a pin on the table, and I'm like, oh, as soon as I saw this in the neck, I'm like, oh, and I was right. He went straight for the pin. And I thought, okay, here it comes. Here comes the pin. He's going to try and jab it in my neck. And so as soon as I saw that neck just, it was like, oh, and Chris is watching the whole thing. And Chris is sitting there. And Chris thinks a fight's going to break out in the middle of Starbucks on his watch, his manager. And Chris had walked out from behind the bar. And so Alex is like, and so he grabs the pin, and I got enough distance just to have enough time to block that strike. And he grabs the pin, and then he just starts drawing like a madman. I'm like, that was weird. I thought he was gonna, you know. And so I know he's gonna go for the pin. I already saw it. I saw his eyes look down at it. I saw the tenseness. He flexed, and I saw here he comes. And so I got back, and I was getting ready because I knew it was on in Starbucks. And he grabbed the pin, and just instead of going for me, he just started drawing. I'm like, what the hell, dude? And he draws that shark and a rhino ripping the skeleton in half. And he wrote, shield my eyes from the sun, for I know not what lies before me. And I'm like, what the hell? Look, I'll show it to you. And so check this out. This is so crazy. So let's see, where is that? Okay, so he had already drawn this, and then he grabs this piece of paper. I think it was a receipt, yeah. And then he starts drawing this thing right here. And he draws it super fast. So he draws, sorry. So he draws like the sun right here, and of course it needs to rotate 90 degrees right. And he draws a skeleton, and he draws a shark, and he draws a rhino with a bird on it. And he writes, shield my eyes from the sun, for I cannot see what lies before me. Yeah. And then he goes, do you know what that means? And at that point I'm like, no. I was just like, I'm talking to Satan in Starbucks. And so he goes, do you know what that means? And I'm like, no, should I? Like, and he said something like, I'm all around you. I'm everywhere you go. Something like that. And I was like, okay. And then Chris was like, so here's the point of me telling you the story. Because the same thing is in this story about Obama. So Chris is like, hey, Alex. And Alex is like, and he was like punch drunk. So when you've gotten hit too many times and you're not sure where you're at. I mean, if you're a guy, and you've been hammered a few times and you're like, whoa, you're like trying to get it together. I've gotten clobbered a few times to where I was like not sure, if I was coming or going. And it's like, whoa. And that's how he was. He was all. And then all of a sudden he was like, huh? He didn't even know what had happened. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. I was like, time out. Wait a minute, time out. What the hell just happened? He was not there for that whole time. I don't know where he was, but he wasn't there at that table. And it was crazy. He was totally accessed. So the point of telling you this story, by the way, it's on YouTube. It's called Nike Dead Sheep Testimony. I think it's Nike Dead Sheep Testimony. And now check this out. This, just to continue, this is kind of fun. I love telling this story. It's like, wow. Okay, check this out. So I'm gonna do a Google search, and he drew the Kobe Bryant ad like a month and a half before it came out. Google Images. Let's see, Kobe Bryant. Okay, there we go. He drew the Kobe Bryant attack fast ad. There it is. Okay, you see this? So he did the Kobe Bryant attack fast ad basically before it came out. So he did the shark, and on this side he had the rhino, and I couldn't figure out the rhino for a while, but then I realized there's a guy named Mark Echo that does a clothing line, and it's got rhinos with a crosshair on it because they're almost extinct like we are. They're trying to get rid of us out of their system. And so he had a rhino and a bird on the rhino, like a bird of the air. Get it? And so I was like, that is crazy. So anyway, that happened. I just showed it to you. And then a month and a half later, look, Kobe Bryant comes out with Attack Fast. Look at this. X. See that? That's female chromosome. Wait a minute. That's a female chromosome. Watch this. Watch what else they did with the Kobe Bryant ad. Oh, nice. A serpent. Isn't that nice? Like a black mamba. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so anyway, I've experienced this. So that's why I wanted to tell you these stories. I've seen my dad's eyes. I was like, what in the hell? Lou was standing right next to me. I was like, did you see my dad's eyes? And she was like, what in the hell was that? And I was like, that was insane. I think that was 2 days before I got saved. And then the Alex thing. Alex didn't even know where he was. He didn't even know what had happened. And that's Chris. Chris gave a testimony. I asked Chris, would you give a testimony to this? We got to document this. And so it's on YouTube. It's called Nike Dead Sheep Testimony. So anyway, so when I read this article, it rings true because I've experienced exactly what's in this article. Exactly. I've seen it. He didn't even know what had happened. Just like Obama, he doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't, he's arrogant, he's smug, he's cocky. I'm sure he knows what's happening, in one sense of the word. But there's a time when you're taken over just like Alex. And I've seen the same thing happen to several other people. Other people that I've called out that have drawn images. I saw the same thing happen to Carlos, a guy that drew this image of this girl with her eyes closed and a serpent coming down the side of her head. It was in her hair and the tail wrapped around her neck. And when I confronted him, he started whimpering like a dog. He was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, what the hell's the matter with you? And it's because that spirit knows, and it's using the human flesh as a shield. This is some wild stuff, guys. This is real. So here we go. Let's go back to this. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. Then Obama suddenly gained his composure, kind of like Alex, as if the transformation had never happened, just like Alex. Obama said he was only joking and that he grossly misunderstood, and that the grossly misunderstood photograph was actually taken at a Halloween costume contest and that he and Michelle attended several years ago. I think Obama scared Joe, shitless. He admitted to me that he didn't know what to believe at that moment. So apparently Joe is talking to the person that wrote this article. He admitted to me that he didn't know what to believe at that moment, but he stoically pressed Obama for additional answers. He asked why, if the photo were taken at a costume contest, Arthur Davis was not in costume. Obama's answer: Arthur doesn't like parties. I don't know if it was legitimate or poor taste parlor trick, but I can't imagine a former United States president acting in such poor taste. Our source said the whole experience left Joe visibly shaken for a while, our source said. Rather than edit out Obama's satanic antics, the Washington Post, a leftist publication friendly to all things Obama, decided not to publish the piece and told Stevens that merely mentioning what he had thought had happened might jeopardize his career. Okay, now see, here's the thing. I believe this because I've seen it. That's why I told you the wild stories that happened. They're documented on YouTube. So anyway, I believe that to be true. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you guys, I'm going to make this a video of its own. I'm going to provide you guys with a new folder. Go buy the biggest spatula you can find. Go get some Depend undergarments. Go get whatever you need because you're going to freaking lose it. I'm telling you. The time is here, folks. The two sides, the left and the right, are squaring off. All the Trump supporters have been identified. So everyone that has any morality, anyone that believes in, the rule of law. Remember, the Antichrist is the lawless one. Look at the left. They're lawless. If you don't do what we say, we're going to break your windows. We're going to beat you up. Violence is okay to achieve what they want. They're lawless. They want to do away with laws. Listen to the new candidates. They want to abolish all these laws, abolish ICE, abolish the borders, abolish whatever, everything they can. So the two sides are coming to a head. All the Trump supporters and all the people that have morality have been identified now. So when the crap goes down, it's easy through records and everything to identify through neighbors, through acquaintances, through family members, mothers, fathers. What does the Bible say? In the end, your worst enemies will be members of your own household. Father will rise against son. I've already experienced that. Brother against brother, experience that. Mother against daughter, mother against daughter-in-law. Your worst enemies will be members of your own household. Children will rise against their parents and cause them to be killed because it's another race of beings. Do you get it? They don't care about family relationships. They're here to take over, folks. This is a takeover from the inside. That's why they use the Kelopot to do it. Do you understand now? Because the beast is being unleashed from within, just like Obama took over from within the government. There's a quote by Cicero. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here's a really great quote. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through the alleys and heard in the halls of government itself. But let me finish the quote. Let me finish that for you. Okay, so here we go. And see, this is what we're dealing with now, folks. A nation can survive its fools, even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims. He wears their face and their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to be feared. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague. Okay. And guys, all you got to do is look at what's going on in the government right now. It was infiltrated from the inside, wasn't it? Who appointed all these people? Obama. All goes back to Obama. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you get one more look at this letter, and then you can I'll just leave it there, and you guys can go look at it yourself. Watch out, it's going to try and give you malware, and then I want this thing off my computer completely. So there you go. So I'm going to quarantine all this. Okay, there you go. All right, so now I'm going to produce a folder for you guys, and the folder I'm going to produce, go get your Depends undergarments. Okay, because you're going to freaking lose it. It's insane. Okay, so anyway, there you go, guys. Okay, so we're going to take, I'm going to take this and just let this run as a video. I'm going to follow it up with the data now, the bullet point data. The bullet point data is coming to support what you just saw. Okay? All right, God bless. Real quick, I want to end this on a scripture. I almost turned it all off, but I just heard it in my head, so I'm going to run with it. Okay, in meekness, instructing those, look, that oppose themselves. So this is 2 Timothy 2. So we're supposed in meekness instructing those that, look, oppose themselves, you know, like your own mirror image. Like there's a right side up you and then there's an opposing you. Get it? Those that oppose themselves. This is always the key to understanding the entire Bible. Those that oppose themselves. Peter, I'll give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. It's how you unlock the lock. I mean, it's in all of it. Unless you make the things of the right as those of the left. By the way, that's the Acts of Peter. Unless you make the things of the right hand as those of the left, and those of the left as those of the right, those above as those below, you will have no knowledge of the kingdom. All that means is turn it upside down. You want to see the truth? Just turn it upside down. That's why when you turn the virgin upside down, it's a dead sheep, because the virgin equals all the dead sheep. The virgin was Eve, and she's the mother of all the children of men. Okay, why do you think the statue of liberty, eleutheria, which means licentious or legitimate freedom, why do you think it's called the mother of exiles? Why don't we just add one word to that? Mother of the exiles. Mother of the exiles. It's a big statue of Eve, guys. Mother of the exiles. She's holding a torch with the imprisoned lightning. The base of the torch is a penis, and she's standing on a geometric figure that is a representation of the host body called a kelipot in Jewish Kabbalah. It's solved. Okay, now let me show you what Satan can do, like he did to Obama and what he did to Alex, what he did to my dad, what he did to Carlos. I watched it happen with my own eyes. I'm giving you a testimony, truthful testimony, just like the court of law. Here we go. In meekness, instructing those that, look, oppose themselves, because that's what this is all about. You have your own evil twin. If God, peradventure, will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth, if God, peradventure, will give them repentance to the acknowledging of the truth, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil. Oh, the snare. They've been caught in a snare. That they may recover themselves out of the snare. A snare is a trap that catches you and turns you upside down. Of the devil. Look at this. Who are taken captive by him at his will. Just like Alex, just like my dad, just like Carlos, and I've seen it many other times. People that said, oh, God sent me to your house. I'm like, yeah, whatever. God would never send anyone to my house. I know better than that. So anyway, so there you go. That they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil. A trap that turns you upside down. Who are taken captive by him at his will. Why do you think Alex all of a sudden went? When I said, hey, why'd you do the dead sheep? Do you know who you're speaking with? He was taken captive by Satan at his will. And that's when I was like, yeah, I think so. And then just to clarify, he put the all-seeing eye on my cup. I was like, I'm talking to the devil, aren't I? How's it going, man? What's up? Let's do this, brah. Yeah, and he wasn't real happy with my message. Time is up. All right, guys. God bless.